Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Flutter Original. In this episode, I have one of the most prolific or well known people in the community, a Flutter GD, an amazing author of many packages that you are familiar with. And I bet one of those packages one of his packages, you perhaps have used in your Flutter application. So let me introduce you to Thomas Burkhardt. So, hi, Thomas. How are you?
Hi, thanks, fine. Nice that you have me. Uh, yeah, it's really I really enjoy sharing my ideas or my thoughts with people, so I'm really happy. And yes, as I said, I'm already within Flutter for quite a long time. Since the beta of Flutter, I'm with Flutter, and so. Yeah, but I still think there are a lot of people out there who have not tried one of my packages yet. So
Yep.
let's change this.
Yeah, let's change this. So, Thomas, you have many packages. Well, I can name some of them. Get it. I think the most well-known one, perhaps, and Flutter command. You have get it mixing. You have RX command, and
Then there is super tooltip. We have I have Firebase helpers is another package that I have. It's really it grew. Uh, I think it's important to know that I'm a big fan of I call it the Lego approach, having small pieces that you can plug together instead of having one big package. So, for example, get it, mix in, and Flutter command could be one big
I
package if you wanted to. But I decided no, I want to have it in separate packages because you can combine them with other packages, and you don't need all my packages. Yeah, so it's a little bit more flexible.
one of those packages, which I actually myself I used it a lot, like almost in all of my project that I've done with Flutter, I used it. Like this is the first thing I usually do. It's get it. So, do you want to explain a little bit about get it? Like, how did you come up with
Oh,
this idea?
mhm,
When did you create it, and why did you create it?
okay.
And what it is.
Actually, the story of Get It is the story of of my personal failure. I would have to say, because when I started with Flutter, you have to know I came from .NET from the Xamarin World, and I started with Flutter, and I was also, yeah, very excited from the beginning. And I tried to organize my code a little bit better, and then and I learned. I was still in the learning phase, and I learned, oh yeah, there's this thing called InheritedWidget
Mm.
to access my model class or my business class, and I just did not get it to run. It was the thing was actually it was no problem to access the objects, but I was not able to have it work that it updated automatically when the data changed. And I talked with, at this time, with Brian Egan about this, and he also was struggling with this. He was coming up with the scope model shortly afterwards. And my approach was differently because I was thinking, why, why the hell should I bother with this context, with this build context, with this build context, which is in many cases not really helpful because especially if in my business layer, if I have different business objects that want to reach for each other, I don't have any context. And the only argument for a context is really that you have this propagation inside the widget tree. And in my opinion, m- most applications don't need it. So you don't have to do it. I know that in this I'm a little bit yeah, an outlier from the from many other people that say, I think Alessio was a, oh, in a mobile app you have to use a context. And I said, why? why should I use the context? It's not something that it has to be there. But okay, this was my starting point. That I said okay, and then was a thing that I was used to on service locator called Splat in the .NET world from AnyBets, which I really liked. And so I think it might be on the second week in Flutter, I decided, okay, I have to port Splat because I wanted to have a service locator again. And while porting it, we got more and more, new ideas came in. It's in the meantime, it got much more than a pure service locator. We have, for example, the whole stuff. It handles nicely the whole way how you can initialize objects that need asynchronous code at startup. It handles this because I think it's something very closely related to services, to objects and so on. And also the last thing that we added are the scopes. That Gedit has several scopes that you can register objects. We will come on this a little bit later. Especially also there, I follow a different philosophy than the scopes in Provider, for example. Yeah. So and overall, actually, really, Gedit is older than Provider. It's older than a lot of other packages, but somehow it got a little bit under the bus when all the new packages came up. So I'm really happy that we have today time to talk about it a little bit
For
about it.
sure. I
Yeah.
mean,
So
Thomas, Gedit is very popular. So
yeah,
you can check that on pop.dev, for example. You see it's like, I don't know, over 2,000, 3,000 likes. And I've seen, I've
yeah. I think it's on fourth place or so from the
exactly.
popular
So that means a
packages.
lot
Yeah,
of people are
it's true.
using that. I'm not sure if you have any stats or not, but then I personally have seen many projects, well, Flutter projects that, well, I recognize Gedit is part of it. And well, one
Yep.
thing that
Uh, y-
you, in fact, mentioned in the documentation for Gedit is you're following the simplicity, like, right? So you're making everything simple. But how do you do that? And
Yep.
before that, also, let me ask you a question for those that don't know what is a service locator. Like, can you explain a little bit about
Okay.
that first?
Yep. Yeah. Sure. Sure. Um. Actually, the, to be fair, normally you don't need a service locator. It's nothing that you really need. Uh, the idea is, the thing is, if you start a Flutter project, actually the typical demo project that we have, the counter project, is a very bad example because it has everything inside the widgets. Yeah. But sure, you can write an app with completely all your logic in the state of a stateful widget, and you're fine. If it's a very simple app. Um, but it has shown that especially if you work with multiple people, and also if you want to test functionality separate from the UI, that you take some parts which I call typically business logic. This means the all the bits and pieces that really um, process the data of your app, that you put this in separate classes. Yeah. And the other thing is that we that it established it that we do some sort of layering in your app. For example, that you have a certain layer to abstract the actual hardware that we use. Yeah. Um, it has a sometimes I'm a little bit torn between how much is really necessary, because one of the biggest arguments for this layering and all for things are, oh, you want to reuse this part of code, or and only the lower level and then add something other on top, or you want to reuse the business part and then put another UI on top. And if we are honest, how often really does it happen? Almost never. Yeah. So, or we might have to switch the database later on. Yeah. How often does it really happen? Yeah. So this is really one of the things that nowadays I lean more in the direction to say, okay, don't do too much layers. One of the reasons why I also say some people think that that clean clean code clean model would be a good idea for an app. Says, oh, no, sorry, too much abstraction, too many, um, especially if I ran too much, tell me. Yeah, this is especially if we keep in mind today we have really powerful um, uh, development environments. Yeah. So making a big refactoring today is not really such a problem like 10 years ago. So if I really have to throw out a database and I have to put in a new one, this can be done in some days. It's possible. And so the whole thing is keep it simple, always, not too much layers. Some layers have shown useful, especially for the way that for testing. So for example, if I have a lower layer for the devices and I have then a business layer for the tests, I can replace the real device layer with some mock device layer that simulates only for example, my compass or something like this, and I can really test how behave the layer above with this. So okay, so we have different layers in an app on different objects, and now we have the problem. If I have a widget, how does this widget access my business object or a service object below? Yeah, it has to know it somewhere. Especially if you have split your code in several files. And the very simplest version, and honestly, in some cases it might be totally fine, is to use a global variable for your if you have if I have five business objects that I need, it might be the simplest approach just to say, okay, make this 5 global variables. Fine. It's a first approach. This approach has a drawback that it is quite inflexible, and you don't have really control where do the access happens to these objects. And there is one of the solutions is to use a service locator. A service locator is a place you could say it's a sort of registry where you can register an object, and if you later need it from anywhere in the app, you can directly access it. Yeah. Now, the really interesting part comes, but maybe we see this later on with object orientation and inheritance, because we are able to register to decouple to decouple the interface of an object from the implementation and the way we interact with it. But I think we should do in practice.
Yeah, we definitely do. Because I have a famous MJ Coffee app that in all of my tutorial and Flutter original series, I use it for implementing some of these packages and including your packages today. Let me ask you two more questions
Cool.
and then jump into the code.
Yeah, sure.
So, okay, now we understood the service locator, the concept of like repository, and also one important point you mentioned that like start simple and then add on top of what you built. You know, you don't need to start
Yep.
very hard in the beginning. So, one question here. Well, maybe we can jump into the code and I ask that question in the code. Let's actually do that because it's much
Sure.
easier to show then.
Sure.
So,
Maybe let me add one thing. Actually, in the meantime, it's not so strong, not so prevalent as it was in the past. you will hear people saying, "Oh, Service Locator is a
Mm-hmm.
bad pattern. Don't use it." Yeah. This was especially, we had some time where IOC containers were very, very, very popular in some frameworks.
Sorry,
But to
what
be
is
honest,
IOC container for those who does?
oh, IOC, an IOC container, and is the idea. It's also sort of registry. You register objects, but in languages where you have reflections, which mean that your running app is able to access the type information really detailed of your app, then these frameworks are then able to inject completely automatically the objects that you use. Yeah, you don't have to care a lot about it. Which is on the one side very nice. On the other side, it has the notion a little bit of some black magic is going on in the background, and you don't know what's happening. Yeah, and so this was one of the reasons why I didn't like it a lot. Um, but the whole discussion of service locators, good or bad, I only have to say it works. It's very simple. And in the end, it's much more important we ship an app than we discuss philosophy about if a pattern is good or
Yeah.
bad. Yeah. So be
Yeah,
pragmatic.
I agree. I agree. So okay, let's go to the code. And this is my
Yeah.
application, Thomas. It's a very simple application. And actually, I'm not gonna go like and then show all the pages and stuff. That doesn't important. But I'll
Mhm.
show you a bit of a structure of the code and
Okay.
what things we have here. And you see that what can we do here with get it.
Yep.
So here is the main. Let me open up this. Maybe uh, make this bigger. Okay.
Mhm.
So I have this main page, which is mainly running this application. And well, I also have Go router for my routing and just the normal Flutter application, right?
Mhm.
I also have several services, which at the moment, they are singleton. So let's take a look at one of them, like us service. For example, I use this for my, for authentication part. So I get the
Yeah.
profile,
Great.
I get the everything from that, and that is a
Mhm.
singleton. So the way that I use it, it's pretty straightforward. Just let me just uncomment this. Not sorry, this one. I just access this service instance and whatever function I want, and that's pretty much it, right? So
Mhm.
very simple concept. But I know that just using singleton has some drawbacks. For example, probably testing is one of those drawbacks, and
Mhm.
we'll get to that. So there is another service, chat service, and there is another service for theming, which is
Mhm.
providing theming if I need to know like whether it's dark mode, like whatever else. Just a
Mhm.
very simple
Yep.
service to change the mode from dark to light and stuff like that.
Mhm.
That's again pretty much it. A singleton service for theming. So three services and a bunch of
Okay.
screens. And one
Mhm.
of those screens perhaps is like, let's go to profile. So I have a profile screen. You don't need to see the screen, but well, I have a log out button. As you see, it's just using us service instance log
Mhm.
out
Mhm.
function,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Just using the tear down,
Yep.
feature. So
Yep.
in Flutter. So just going through that and run this. That's pretty much it. And
Okay.
you see, well, this is now the pattern I use. Pretty simple application. I just didn't make it
Mhm.
complicated. But I'm thinking now the app is growing. Maybe I can make this a little bit better.
Mhm.
I'm not quite happy with building all of these services with Singleton when I'm gonna
Mhm.
have 10 or more services at some point, right? Maybe they're
Yeah, singletons are actually the next step, one step above the global variable.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. So
So, mhm.
now I'm thinking to use. I want to somehow still have this simplicity. Like you see, I just call an
Mhm.
instance and get the function, but I
Yep.
don't want to have these singletons. I don't
Mhm.
want to manage it myself. Maybe a better approach, which I thought Service Locator is probably a good approach here to just replace this and make it a bit better. And perhaps,
Absolutely.
well, Gedit is, well, the package for it, for sure. So let's get it started right now. What should I do? How should I start? Well, I mean, the first thing is I need to add that to pub spec.yaml file, right? So let's
Exactly.
do that. And then I'll go to the code and you tell me what we can do here.
Mhm.
So, all right. So what we can do, add dependency. So get it, right? That's it. Well, I
Mhm.
see immediately that you have two more packages related, hooks and mixin. Well,
Exactly.
we'll
Yeah.
come back
Mhm.
to that later. Let's add get it. And that's good. Let me go to my main function,
Yeah.
main file. So
Mhm.
what should we do? Usually when we start with Gedit, what's the best practices here, Thomas? Like, should
Okay.
I create a
Uh,
file or register it globally? Or how is your approach as an author of package?
so to really get an advantage of Gedit, um, is that we should a little bit restructure your service first.
I see.
And what I mean is that we on your service that we extract an abstract interface class and have an implementation class. That we have two classes for the service.
Okay, let's do that. So that's let's go to
Unfortunately, it's not yet supported from Dart code.
ah okay.
Extract interface would be nice. In other languages have it. Um, Best thing, copy the file and then we throw out everything in one file and add on the other one. Um,
Yeah. So, well, tell me.
just copy the file,
Just copy the
the auth
file.
file.
Okay, I'm gonna go and copy the file, and let's name it like what?
It's auth version
Okay,
implementation.
let's call it implementation.
Impl. Or
There you go.
yep. Hmm. Great. So
Should I?
let's first go into the auth and one thing. This is just me. I typically name the auth service the interface file with a trailing underscore. Then it will be directly above the implementation in your project browser.
Okay.
But that's just me. Okay, let's throw out in the auth service everything implementation that we have.
So yeah, here is the auth service. So then should I create
No, the other file.
oh the other file? Sorry, the main file. You mean? Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So let's make it an abstract class.
There you go. And perhaps we don't need this
And
anymore.
no, we don't need this anymore. Exactly. That's also not. Yep.
There you go.
Okay. And okay. Um, let's go for a little bit further down. That we say what do we have? Everything there. App auf gleich Flutter auf. Oh, we should put the we should move this
Implementation part.
to the implementation. Make this a I think you have if there's a quick action to that it adds the type in the beginning. If you
Yeah, it does.
if you are on the file,
There you go.
yep.
And let me actually do that here as well. There you go. There you go. And perhaps just these functions
Hmm.
like that. And let's do that. And
The idea is that that if you look at the abstract interface, that you don't care about how it's implemented. It's really think that say, okay, this is now a service. It offers me these functions, and I don't care how the actual
I see.
implementation is. Especially if you work with multiple people, if someone just uses this package, he only has to look at the abstract interface class and does not have to bother with the
I see.
implementation.
Okay, so then I'm gonna go, and there is one more thing here that I need to do, and that is log in. Well, here's the thing. So I will just fix this. There you go. And
Mhm.
that's pretty much it.
I guess we have to make them late. That he is
Yeah,
yeah.
that's correct. There we go. Well, actually, let me just quickly remove these comments so that we
Yep.
can show these functions much easier.
Yep.
There we go.
In a way, it is really on the one side, it is nice that we have definition and implementation in one files in Dart. But on the other side, sometimes I miss the header files from C, where you have in one view just the function definitions of a library, and you're not distracted with all the implementation
Yes,
code.
you are right. Good. So now I have my abstraction class.
Yeah, this looks nice. This
Let's
looks
just
nice.
make it closer. There we go.
Exactly. So perfectly perfect.
Okay.
And now in the authority implementation, we call this class now authority implementation, and it implements. Actually, we implement in this case. We could extend, but I think we don't have any real code now in the
No.
abstract class that we would have as
Yeah,
a base.
you're right. So I'm just gonna implement that, and I believe then this is not needed anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Just can go. This is fine. I think an override here will probably want an
I have
override
two
for
missing
something.
override. That's interesting.
Probably because they are not late yet. Could it
Let me
be?
see what
No.
is sets and okay. These are these ones actually. Uh,
Okay.
these ones because we say it's late and they're okay. Um, you see what's the problem. So let me just go up. We are missing two variable here, two setter like app auth and secure storage. We already have them here
Ah,
because
because you only have get. It's only a getter.
exactly I
We
have
have
to have a set.
to add the yep.
That's the thing. So here is the setter on the bottom of this implementation, which I'm gonna actually move them to the top.
Well, actually, you don't need a setter. You need the backing field, right?
Here's another thing. Actually, I don't need these two variables in abstraction at all because I'm not gonna like.
They should not be
No, they are
not
not
public. They're
public
just
at all.
internal.
They are not public.
That's that's also a nice thing. You see that the abstract class hides information that is not for the public to use.
Exactly.
Yeah, and they don't even get tempted to change private to a public field if they don't see it. It's there.
Exactly. Exactly. So there you go. And then here is the things. I actually need to remove the extra things here and import it from there because we are now. Let me just also remove this. Okay. So now I can, because I already have it Well, I mean, I can. There you go. So that looks okay now. The only thing
Yep,
is that
perfect.
so I need to replace all of the auth services with implementation, probably. Yeah. So, but we don't need to do
No,
that right now because we're gonna use
no,
get it,
no,
right? So let's wait for it. Yeah. Okay.
exactly. Exactly, because now it's now we will see later on why we did this. It's not just because it's more beautiful. We will make it in a way that you see where
Exactly.
it goes. So how do we access this? I most often I add directly next to my
Uh-huh.
main.dart a file. I call it
Okay.
locator.dart.
Locator.dart. There we go.
So, and now uh, actually we will use one singleton through the whole app. This is the get it itself, the get it
Uh-huh.
object itself. Now I use there are two approaches how you can do this. The lazy one that I pretty often do is that I allow myself one global variable, or nice better name is
Yeah.
ambient variable. One global variable for the
Yeah.
get it object, but you don't have to, because get it you can access the get it instance
Mhm.
otherwise. Yeah, I don't know what which way we should choose
Is there any
for
difference,
now.
like, or it's just a cosmetic, let's say?
It's just you have a little bit less typing, and you can give it your own name.
Mm.
That's the idea. For example, I think Simon came up with it that he named the get it instance that he used throughout the app then backend, or some people call it locator. That it's
Okay.
clear.
So the approach,
So
let's actually type this approach. So the one approach is gonna be like, let's call it locator, and then it's gonna be get it dot
dot
yeah dot
instance,
there this one.
and exactly, yeah,
Okay.
exactly. So
And then
that's the first thing we have. And this is actually this variable we will use throughout the app when we want to access any registered
locator.
object.
So the only global object that we have, this is locator. Okay,
Yep,
that's good. But then what is the another
exactly.
approach?
The other approach is not to do this, and then if you type again get it dot
Let me actually
ah
let me
uh,
actually do that here.
uh,
There you go.
yeah,
So I have three possibilities, or actually two maybe. Instance and I.
exactly. Exactly. I is just a shortcut for instance. So if I don't want to use a global variable, I would have to type everywhere where I want to access an object. I would have to type getIt.instance. Yeah.
Ah,
So I offer a shortcut to the then type
got I.
getIt.I dot, and then I access
Oh, okay,
my
okay.
object that I
So
want to.
then in this case, well, having this locator, it's probably a good idea. So because it simplifies a bit. So I just deal with one thing here.
Exactly.
I see.
Exact. Yeah. So, and then I have a function that I call setup
Okay.
locator. And this we will call at the very beginning of the app.
Okay. So then I'll define this here, as you said, and then I go to main dot, like in the very first beginning, like here. That's it.
Yep,
I just set up everything. Let's
exactly.
import it. There we go. Okay, from now on, then everything goes to this file. That's it.
Yep.
Okay, then.
So now let's register our instance that we
Okay,
want to have.
how?
Uh, Now there are different ways how you can
Okay,
register an instance. And I will explain them shortly. It depends a little bit how you want to use get it, or what it should do. If your instance is really an, a it's an object that should only have one instance in your whole app. Yeah, so it's a singleton. There are two ways how I can do it. I can either register it directly as singleton, or it's called a lazy singleton. What's the difference? Normal singleton, you will have to create the instance exactly at this point and then register
I
it.
see.
Yeah. So the instance will be the constructor of the instance will run directly at startup of your app. In some cases, if this initialization procedure takes long, yeah, it might make sense to push this further back. But if you don't need the instance immediately, but you want to register it here, we can do it and register it as lazy singleton. In this case, we would only register it, and it will be created the moment you use
I
it the
see.
first time. Yeah. So this is the difference in this
Okay, so then
in this way. And
in
then
this
there is
case, then isn't it better always to have register singleton lazily? Because well, why do we need to register it all the time? Whenever it's used, then it will be registered. There's not much difference, right? So in fact, it's even better.
Not really. It makes it it looks a little bit simpler if you don't if you do it directly, but we can
Oh,
we
so
can do
the API is different.
the following
Let's
thing.
actually play with the API. So should I now call locator dot and I get whole bunch of things here, right? Oh,
Yes,
and when you
but
say
that's
register, then
yeah,
you're talking about these register functions.
exactly. We have here different register functions, and it looks like a lot of register functions.
It does actually.
Um, Actually, this is one of the other one of the things that I'm uh, my packages sometimes look differently to other packages. Other packages often have less functions, but then you have to pass some config objects or other stuff into it to what you are really doing. I prefer it to have a little bit more functions that I can
Yeah.
directly access. Uh, keep it simple. So it is, and we have at the very top, as you see, register factory.
Yeah.
What's register factory? Register factory is actually quite similar to the others. The only difference is that you will create a new instance on every call when you access the
Uh-huh.
your object. So this is in case, for example, I know people use this with BLoC in combination, that they create their blocks always new when they access it and directly dispose it
Mhm.
afterwards. Yeah? So that's where factories are for.
But then
And
what's the difference here? The async,
the
async.
yeah. This is actually the difference here is um, if you have if you have an object that needs some asynchronous initialization code,
Mhm.
yeah, which for example you have to open a database or call some web API in the beginning, then it's the best way to do this is to use the async uh, function, the async creation function, because then Gedit has a function it's called already that allows you then at a later point to check, are all my instances correctly initialized before I
I
continue with
see.
my app.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if the ALF service if the if it has this feature or not.
No,
Not
but
sure.
I think
If
then let's actually talk about the rest of this registry, and then I have a question for you. So I see now lazy singleton and
okay,
lazy singleton async and register and
exactly.
register singleton async and register singleton with dependencies. So the
Yeah,
difference.
difference. Okay, you see, we have all the functions in a normal version and in the async version. Yeah. So the async version is we always use if the creation of our object needs some async
I
code.
see.
Yeah. So what's the last one? Register singleton with dependencies. the thing is that all the async registration functions allow you to define dependencies. This means you can pass in if they depend on another service, and get it makes sure that then it waits to create the dependent one until the one
I
it
see.
depends on is
Okay.
created.
Hmm.
Yeah, and and to allow the situation that you have a normal object that depends on async singletons. Yeah, that's when you use the
I
register
see.
singleton with
Okay.
dependencies.
So then, in this case, so we have, let's say, then we understood the difference between factory and singleton and lazy singleton and an async version of them. Now I understand. But I think then I
Hmm.
can go with singleton. I think then based on what you said, for our service, singleton makes sense, right? We already also had a singleton. Um,
Yep.
because I want to make sure that I always have one instance of our service. So that's good. So I go for the
Yep.
register lazy singleton first. See how it looks like. Oh, then you need somehow a callback.
Yep, you have to pass in a factory function that can be called on the first time you try to access this object. Yeah, therefore you need
So in
a
this
factory
case, then I
function.
just need to pass this. Is it
Exactly.
any way that I can
That's how it looks like.
define like
Yeah.
my type here to abstract?
Yes. The thing is, if you don't pass in, oops. Yep, you should do this actually. Because otherwise, if you do it like this, how you did the way you did it now, it would register it as with the auth service
Aha.
implementation type in the registry. But we want that we can, when we access it, we want just say, oh, give us bitte the current registered object for the auth service
Aha. Okay,
interface.
like that.
Exactly. So by this, we tell get it registered with the interface type, but
I
use this
see.
specific implementation.
Okay, sounds interesting.
Yeah.
But then the difference. Let's actually write locator dot.
Oh, let's just use the your chat service, and we will not extract interface in this case, but just throw out
Like you mean implementation?
uh, the singleton stuff, and then we can register one
Aha.
as
Okay.
lazy and the
Okay.
other one
So
not as lazy.
then I just say this one. The another one is going to be just a singleton. I see. So this is the
Exactly.
well. Do I need to have a callback for singleton?
No, actually it will because Dart at the that's important. That's at the interface type first. Then it will directly tell you that you
Aha.
made a mistake.
Like okay, like this.
No, I mean as generic, the generic type.
There
Give
you
it
go.
first the
This.
generic
Ah,
type.
you mean in here generate type?
Yeah, exactly. So chat service, your
Our
no your
service.
chat service. No, the chat service. We use the other one.
Yeah.
Yep. And now it
Yeah.
tells you directly, okay, no, there's something wrong. Yeah. And this is because the register singleton just expects an instance. It
Uh-huh.
does not
Okay.
expect a factory function. So we delete this and just do a chat service and create just a chat service
There you
here.
go. Like that.
Yep, that's it. That's the simplest version, the simplest way. If when you register an object and you don't want to
Okay.
have an interface, you just do it
But
like
then
this.
can we quickly just
Yeah.
have I actually want to do one thing here. Let's quickly go through this service. I had this class login info. Can I make this somehow like a factory, or I don't
Hmm.
know, something else? I just, not this one, something else. Like, just want to create something. Let's create a model. Um,
Oh, I know. You know what we need? I don't. Do you have for the chat messages an
I
object?
think I do. Yeah, you mean a model, right? I do have models. There you go. Let's go for.
We
There you
could
go. Yeah.
register this
So I
as a
have this
factory, for
model.
example.
Can I register that as a factory then?
The
Or
token. I
how
was
about coffee?
thinking about the. Okay, we don't have one of the from the of the uh, what object is that you create multiple instances in here?
At the moment, no services, but we can create multiple objects from coffee. Like this is a model. Yeah, we can do that.
Okay, then let's create
Then
a
I
coffee
go
factory.
to locator, and then I go to
Yep,
just call locator dot register factory.
factory. Yeah, and the type again. You
Aha.
always start with the type that you register. Uh, in, the, in many cases, Get will automatically detect it. Yeah. So if you don't have a separate different implementations, we can omit it and just pass in the type. But here it's a factory. We need it's a function that it calls every time. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you will see something more. And hover about the register factory for a
This
moment.
one.
Yeah, exactly. So uh, it has the. I'm a little bit
I think there is
surprised.
one thing wrong here with the coffee, in fact. So that is depending on something, it seems, parameter.
Ah, sorry. This was my mistake. My mistake. There are two different register factory functions. There's also one with a factory register with params. It's called a register params. This is one if you need but let's don't get at the moment into this. Okay, good. That would be the register factory exactly.
One question for you. So in
What's the
register singleton, we needed to pass just an instance, like this class. But do we need to for factory pass a
yeah,
callback, or just
a callback because
it does?
it will create a new instance every time. So it has
Yes.
to know how do I create a new one. Yeah. So
Okay.
that's the reason why it's a
All
callback
right.
function.
So I think now when we understood
Actually, why does it
it,
why does it
there is an
show
error
the error
here
there?
that the name parameters coffee icon is required, but there is no corresponding argument. So if I go here,
Ah, so we should use we should,
yes,
okay, that's just perfect. Go back. Then let's use the
there
register
we go.
refactory param because with this we are able to pass in a handler a factory function that accepts up to two parameters that we can pass in when we need
I see.
the object. So, for
But
example, yeah.
how can I pass those two params?
So then we can
Implementation.
go over the hover about oops.
There we go.
So it expects a function with two parameters, and it has to return
Uh-huh.
the class.
So then in this case, it would be like test class. Okay. So it would be like, uh, first of all, we're going to have something like that, right? And then here it's gonna be coffee, like whatever, a string. I don't need to.
No, 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 no.
Okay.
You don't have to give them. Nope, you don't need to. Just
Only two. So let's call it
two
param one
only
and
two
param
parameters.
two.
Sorry. Actually, yeah, okay. And then we can pass
I
in one of them
see.
to the coffee
Okay. Now
constructor
I
that
see
to
what you
the
mean.
required parameter.
Okay. So then okay.
Exactly. So we should name the param2 icon, coffee icon, for example. That
Yes. Let me
then
just
it's nicer.
quickly. In fact, I have 4 parameters here, which is not a good example. So let's simply call.
Otherwise, we would have to create here a small wrapper object for this information.
Yeah, what I'm gonna
That's
do, just to make it
that's true. We would
just to make it a bit
need that coffee
simpler.
info
So let's
class.
say this is going to be coffee model, and then so we're gonna have coffee model, and that's
Hmm.
going to have only 2 param,
Hmm.
and then well, this one, let's say, going to be string, and same for name. So this is something that I'm gonna use, and I think it will satisfy then.
Yep, perfect. If you need more parameter, you have to group it in some small
Mhm.
helper class and pass this in.
Yeah, so then name and param2. Okay. So let's it actually it
Exactly.
seems like it requires me
So
to pass
this
the
would
type of params.
oh yeah, it does. Actually, in this case, because we don't have we don't have a separate
Aha,
implementation,
okay.
just omit all the types.
Like
But actually,
yeah,
yeah,
but then
exactly.
it doesn't
This should be fine.
understand this is a string, this is
No?
an object.
Ah, okay. I thought it might be
There you go.
smart enough. No, you have to give it in. You have to pass it in. To be honest,
Yeah.
I personally don't use this function anywhere, but I know a lot
Yeah.
of users they
I
love
know,
it.
I know.
So
Okay, so now I have actually we have 3 examples, which is a good representation of all the functions: lazy, singleton,
yep,
and register factory. Let's move on with that. I have a question for
yep.
you. Let's say my chat service is going to have a dependency. Like here, I would require.
Let's Madrid. Should we? I would say let's put this a little bit back.
Oh yeah,
Let's first
sure.
continue that we show how we use this thing. That we have otherwise
Yeah, let's go.
we add a
So
lot of
I now
extra stuff.
registered this, and
So
I'm gonna replace my auth service here with locator because now this is obviously throwing an error because I don't have this anymore.
yeah, actually, you replace
There you go. Then I have
up
a
to behind
locator.
instance. Yeah, and now you pass in the type that you want. Again, as
Okay.
generic.
So is this like a function? I should call it right. No,
No, yeah, yeah, no, it's just right. It's a function, but we have to pass in a generic type,
it's gonna be
the
auth
one that
service.
we want to
Oh
have.
yeah, there you go. So it's actually fixed.
Exactly. Actually, internally, it calls the get function on getIt, but but getIt is a callable class. That's why we can write it
I
in this
see.
short, nice,
There
concise
you
way.
go. It's perfect. That's it. Fixed. I have a few places.
That's it.
In fact, I can replace all of this. All right, so I can actually do
Yep,
that. Replace it with this, right? Let's go for it.
exactly. Yep.
Uh,
This is one of the things that I meant. We have so powerful tools today if you want to change something in an architecture, it's not something if you decide for an architecture
Yeah,
that you have to stay with it if you're not
exactly.
happy with it.
You are
You can
absolutely
always
right.
change it.
There we go. So no error anymore. Seems everything is working, and well, I believe my app is also working.
I'm a little bit surprised. I'm a little bit surprised. Oh no, I'm not surprised.
There we
Go
go.
into your
Oh,
chat
it's a
service
singleton, right?
and remove the singleton here.
Okay. Well, yeah. So I removed it. There is a problem here because it's not anymore. Okay, it's an instance. So there.
Yeah, but
Yeah, but
we already have it in the locator,
yeah,
so
I
you
didn't
can
change it.
directly say
Okay.
locator chat service.
Locator.
Yeah,
There we go. And I want chat service. There you go. Fixed. So I go to support because I also
yep.
use it there. And yeah, there is. And replace it with locator. There you go. Good.
Yep.
Now I really
So
use
now
it.
you really
That's
use it.
good. So,
Yep.
well, in fact, I don't need to,
Great.
from now on, think about singleton or anything else. I can always register with get it or service locator here in this case. And I'm actually dealing with one file here.
Yes, and you can do, and you can access your objects in this way anywhere in your app. So be it in the UI, be it somewhere else, just
I
type
see.
locator
I have,
your
okay,
type, and
now
you
it's
get what
good.
you
So,
have registered.
yes.
To be warned. To be warned. To be warned. Um, if you try this with a type
Mhm,
that is not
mhm.
registered, you will get an exception. This is one of the things. There is Get it is very unforgivable with this, and it only you only see it when you run it. Yeah, this is as one of the drawbacks of Get it. But honestly, you find out this on the first run you try to run your app. So it's not an error that will you
Yeah,
will
yeah,
encounter when you
definitely.
already have deployed your app.
But
So it's
for
not
sure,
really
there
a
are
problem.
some handy methods.
Yep.
I actually, I've seen that right now here. Let's see, locator dot. I've seen some method here, for example, already sync.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, before
Maybe
you
I
show me
haven't. I
that,
can
let me
show
just
you a
ask you one
little
more
at this
question, and
part.
then you can show me whatever you want to show me. Because now
Yeah.
I have a question that is very common. So let's say now my chat service is going to be dependent on us service. So in fact, then I'm gonna have this
Yep.
us no this us service.
Yep.
Let me just
I
maybe
Oh,
I
okay.
can make it
Hmm.
like this, and then here I say final us service. Well, that is a dependency,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Based on what you told me, then
Yep.
also this is going to be required. Based on what you told me, then now, well, I can come here and maybe just say locator or whatever. I don't like that, but maybe I can go to locator. Now it's requiring me for having uh, us service. Can I say locator, give me us service?
Yeah, sure.
Just this?
Sure.
Okay. This is very good. You
Yep.
know why? Because then in this case, I don't really think about my dependency injections anymore. I actually can have all of my widgets, all of my services classes dependent
Hmm.
on each other, but then I resolve them, in fact, in one file here. Whenever I say service setup locator, then I'm pretty sure everything is going to be like injected.
Yeah. But go back to the other to
There we
what
go.
you
Here.
just created. in the chat service. So typically with an locator, you would not pass in it as a parameter, because you can everywhere when you need it just access it over the locator. So you don't
mean
have to
like
do
I
this
can
to
just remove
do
the
this.
constructor in this case, and
Exactly, because when we need it, not here. No, I actually don't even store it inside the class, but you would just use just call locator of service
oh,
whenever
you mean
you want to
even
call a
like,
function on
let's
it.
say, okay, now I understood. Let's say here I want to check if user, like if locator, you mean like that, right? Ah, okay.
Yeah,
I see.
exactly.
But here
Yeah.
is one thing then, Thomas. I can say this. That's okay. Let's actually practice it quickly together.
The advantage is that you always see where does
Ah,
this object
okay.
come from.
So let's say I
You
want to
know?
check if there is an access token. And like, let's say if
Yeah,
it's not
exactly. Yeah,
empty.
like this. Yeah.
Okay. So you mean like that? I don't need to just have a dependency. Okay. But one,
Exact.
I have a concern here
Yep.
then. Okay. Some challenge for you. So that I can use locator in each
Okay.
of these methods inside another, but that is, well, correct me if I'm wrong. That makes my all of these function, all of these classes, everything very dependent on this locator. Like in fact, if I want to now remove locator, then I have to go inside each of these classes and method and etc. and then remove it.
Why would first thing, why would you remove it? But if you don't want it, you just type instead of locator, type here
No,
get
I
it
mean, like,
dot
let's say I
I.
want to actually
It's just
remove
only the
service locator at
locator.
some
Just replace
point. I
only the.
feel like, oh, no, I don't want this anymore. I want to go with different approach. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, and you mean you have to do it at too many places? Uh, Honestly,
Well, yeah,
search
sure.
and replace.
But the other approach that I just mentioned here, like as dependencies, well, it makes my service, my class, very independent. Well, it will have a dependency injection whenever or wherever I use it. Doesn't matter if it's locator or any other approaches, right? But that I think that
Mm-hmm.
was the idea when I said I can use
Yep.
it this way. So I brought up all of my dependency injection into Service Locator, but I was just wondering.
Oh, you can do this. Sure, you can do this. This is really more a matter of taste. I personally I don't like it.
I
I
see.
call always my locator when I need my objects. Somehow it
Yeah.
feels like I get the object
Okay.
always fresh. Not really, because it's always the same object anyway. But to store a copy of the
Okay.
reference
Sounds good.
somewhere,
So
yeah, you can do this. Absolutely. For example, let me show you one thing. No,
yeah,
just replace it. What you just did. Yeah. For example, let's. This is now changes from a required to an
yeah.
a nullable. And give the give
Like
the constructor a body.
whatever, like that.
Yep. Actually, probably you could also do it in the initializers. And now do it there our service two question marks.
Sorry, my computer is a bit slow. Bear with me. Yeah.
No problem. And then
You mean
locator
I can actually resolve the
our
dependency
service.
in the body of the constructor? Yeah.
Yeah, and I tell you why what the advantage is if you write it like this. This is
Yeah,
for
I think
people
you mean like
who
this,
like
right?
a lot of tests. Yeah, because now in your app you just leave it like this. But if I write a test and I want to pass in some auth service mock and I
Uh-huh.
don't want to register anything before, I can pass in an object. If I pass in an object, it will use the one that I
Yeah, I
passed in.
like it. I like
If I
it.
don't pass in an
I see
object,
the
it will
point.
use the
Yeah,
one from
I
the
like it. I
locator.
think this is very valuable for testing. Very nice.
Yep.
Well, good.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So now let me just finish up my something here. So now we switched to Service Locator, which is amazing, and my app still is working, and that is a good sign. So from now on, I can use this Service Locator and and move on. Now you want to show me more things about dependency injection and Service Locator. I will stop my screen and you can share your screen and show me what you want to show me.
So imagine we have this situation here. We have an app with some config service, a database service, a REST API service, and an app model, and they depend on each other. Yeah, so the database service needs to be sure that the config service is ready before it accesses it the first time, and
Yeah.
the app model needs all of them ready before we can continue. Yeah, how do we do this? We do this in the following way. Oops, too many monitors. So in this case, I use the register singleton async function. I pass in an async lambda function. In this case, init would be the async function that has to be called or has to be finished before the object is ready. Yeah. So register singleton async config service. Then the REST service here has also an async init function as that I can call as on the object itself. So it has I call register singleton async the also in it. So that's not a problem so far because these are these two here, yeah. So they don't have anyone dependent on them. But now on the database service, it calls an async function that's not here defined, but it's an async function that will return me an instance of the database. And here I just pass in the depends on parameter the config service type. And for the app model, I pass in as depends on config service, database service, and REST service. And because app model itself is not an async object, it's just normal object, I use the register singleton with dependency. Yeah. So actually, this is the reason why this is exception is there. It's historically based. Because there is the function register singleton does not expect a factory function, but an instance. I could not easily just add a new parameter depends on it that it works in this case, yeah. And so I had to add the new function register singleton with dependencies. So when I set up my my initialization like this, yeah, I don't have to care what's going on in this init functions. Then I can in my app somewhere quite already in the beginning, I add a future builder and I pass in get it all ready, and already will wait until all the async objects have finished their initializations and then return a future. Yeah. Otherwise, if you try to orchestrate this manually, your code quickly looks pretty awful. Yeah. And with this, it's completely done by Get It, and with already you get this point. You can actually you can query if a certain type is ready, not all that you don't wait for all of them. There's a
Oh,
lot of
that's very good.
flexibility in
It's
this. I
now
stopped
I
sharing.
understood the usage of the already. That is fantastic. You've done a great job, Thomas. So, big applause to you for doing such amazing work.
Thanks.
I personally enjoyed. This was my, I don't know, maybe 100 times that I used Get It. So I really like Get It package, and I use it in many smaller packages, especially. So because it just makes sense to make it simpler to work with, and it's and
Hmm.
also onboarding. One of the benefit of I think I noticed from Get It is when we are onboarding new developers to the new app, they can immediately understand like, oh, what is register, what is not register, why singleton, why factory, and everything is in one place. It's very easy to onboard them. So
Yep.
and
Yep.
dependency injection definitely is also easier, as we discussed in the coding. What else? Last question for you. What else do you have that can be combined with Get It and make it like a perfect combination?
Um, oh, actually, we completely missed the Get It scopes, but it doesn't matter. Okay, Get It itself has some more functionality. It has the ability for scoping. That means if you have some area of the app where you say, okay, in this area, I want to register a certain amount of objects, and I want to throw them completely away in one step. Yeah, that you can do with scopes. Yeah.
Oh, I see.
So I don't know if you have time, if we still have time to have a short look on it, but
Yeah, let's go. Let's go for it. Can you share your screen and
yeah,
show
I do.
us what is the
I have
scope?
something for this. Yeah, and this is oh yeah, yeah. So let's um, let's imagine we have an app, and it has an auth service, and payment manager service, and we have a user object in this app. And this user app object can have two different versions. It can be an, an anonymous user or a logged-in user. Yeah. So the as long as the user is not logged in, the whole app always interacts with the user object, but it will automatically always get the unknown user object. Yeah, not any, and will not have access to everything. So now the moment when we log in, um, I push a new scope, logged in user. I give it a name, and I register a new object also from the user type of type logged in user. And now from there on, whenever the app queries the user object, it will get this one and no longer this one.
I
Yeah.
see.
And we can imagine another application. For example, if we have a shopping cart, yeah, that we want to get rid of with one. I push a new scope again, and I do register the shopping cart. And by by popping the scopes, I can directly unwind this and go back to the original point. Yeah. So, for example, even if I'm up here and the user logs out, I can then do an pop scope until this level, and it will throw away everything above. Yeah.
I see.
And the important thing is, compared to other scoping mechanisms, is for me scopes are uh, uh, business process related. So it has to be it is related. For example, here, am I logged in? Not logged in? Do I need this object? So it's not bound to the widget tree. Yeah. So it's completely separate from this, and you have to you call from init instance or from dispose. You call then, for example, pop scope or push a new scope. So if you need this, so it's in parallel. That's so. It's a very powerful mechanism to handle, especially if you have from one object different versions that can exist at a certain time inside your app. Yeah, you can do this very nicely with the scopes. Okay, this was
Very
a very
nice.
short, quick. So what do we have else? You might have seen here we can access the apps. We can access the objects. Yeah. What we don't currently have seen is how do I, for example, update my UI if my object in Get has changed? Yeah. So with the tools that we have seen yet, I would typically, for example, inside my if I have some some coffee object, for example, that I have, and this coffee object should be displayed, I would probably give this coffee object some value notifier as properties, and then I can use a value notifier builder in the UI and access with this over Getit, the object inside Getit.
Mm.
And this was actually the way, not with value notifier, but with streams. This was the way how I started using Flutter. Having a locator and stream and a stream builder, and I was happy. Yeah, because this was something I was familiar with from .NET. So, and I think about 1.5 years ago or so, some Getit users asked me, oh, would it be possible that you ask some sort of state management to Getit? And in the first moment, what do you mean with this? Then they explained it to me. Says, yes, okay, yeah, this makes sense. So an easy way to make the UI rebuild the moment an object inside Getit changes.
Mm.
And for this, there is the Getit mixin package. But that we will have to cover at another time, if you want to have me back. And,
Of course.
and the third package that works really nicely together with this too is the Flutter command package, which just allows you better control of state management with inside your app. Yep, let's get it.
So many things. You have to promise to come back, Thomas, because,
Sure.
for each of these packages, we can make hours and hours of videos, right? But we need to somehow make it short.
Yeah,
People can
definitely.
watch it as well, right?
Definitely.
But for now, I really enjoyed this session. We went to, what I like is about this show, I actually can hear directly from authors how I can use it. Like there are different ways that you can use it for sure. But when you say I like it this way, then I say, oh, the author told me like this way is better probably, or he knows the best. He knows the inside out of the package. He is doing the package, right?
Yeah,
So
it's really nice. Writing a README is one thing, but explaining it directly is much more fun.
absolutely, absolutely. Thank you very much, Thomas. I will put your social media, all of your contact that you have and publicly accessible in the comments, also as
Perfect.
note in the video, so people can always come to you. And I know that you are also a very open person in the community, so you can always welcome different questions from people.
Sure.
So with that said, again, thank you very much for joining me, and I really appreciate
Bye-bye.
your time.
Yeah.
See you next time.
Thanks for having me. Bye-bye.
Bye.